Hi guys, welcome back. You get to see my face today, for better or for worse. I am hiding in my bedroom with my coffee because my kids are up and I thought this would be the best place to go for some quiet. So let's hope we don't get tons of interruptions. I think they're watching a movie with their dad out there, so hopefully we get some quiet time. Also, as I'm sitting on my bedroom floor hiding from my family, oh, it's still sunny. Oh, sorry, that might be like blindingly bright. But we're expecting storms, but I don't think till later. So, but if you do hear some rumbling in the background, I have eaten my dinner. It's not my stomach, it's the storms. Okay, so 4 reasons why your painting doesn't look the same today as it did when you left it drying last night. It's probably the most commonly asked question in my group. I see it all the time in other groups, and I've gotten asked on my YouTube channel, and I've also seen where you loved it and somebody said, please let this dry the way I'm leaving it. So these are the 4 reasons your painting may be changing as it dries. Number 1, if you are using transparent paints over dark paints, either you have dark in your flip cup or in your swipe or whatever, or you're using like black as your base color, and you're using transparent paints, the problem is if you're using a medium like glue or Floetrol, that's going to give some opaqueness to your paint when you're pouring, because Floetrol and Gluol are somewhat opaque. So it gives it that white, it adds that white kind of opaqueness to the paint. So when you pour that yellow over that black, you're not going to see the black through it. But as that medium dries clear, the transparent properties of the paint are going to be there and the black is going to show through. Same with if you have a dark purple under a transparent orange, or transparent green over a dark brown, whatever it is. If you're using transparent colors, that medium is going to make it look more opaque, and it's also going to be lighter because the light is shining through it with those water molecules. And when those molecules dry and the pouring medium dries transparent and clear, you are going to have that issue. So I've seen that a few times just in the last couple weeks, which is one reason I wanted to make this video, because it's really easy to test for transparency. I have some paints in here actually, since they're all, I don't think Basics has it. Let's see if Master's Touch does. Master's Touch has a little box. This is semi-transparent. Oops, I'm pointing to the 4. I'm pointing to the 4 ounce. I even have my contacts in, goodness. Okay, so you see this little box here? Is it focusing? There we go. Although that says, does that say opaque? That says opaque. Medium. I wonder if that's M for medium. Because usually it's either a full box or an empty box for opaque. Okay, that's something I'm going to have to check on the Master's Touch website. And I will, if I find that, I'll put that in the description bar, what their little symbols mean. Let's see if Creative Inspirations has it. I don't think they do. No, I don't see it anywhere. Okay. And then Arteza has it, a little box. Theirs, if the box is empty, it's transparent, half is semi-transparent, and if it's full black, it's opaque. What else do I have here? I have Basics, but I'm almost positive. Oh, here's Liquitex Basics. Okay, Liquitex Basics has it also. So that's opaque. If you're using a craft paint or a brand of paint, like what did I say? Master's Touch had it. Somebody doesn't. Oh, Creative Inspirations doesn't. And I'm thinking there's somebody else I use that doesn't. I think the only other one I have here is, this is Master's Touch Heavy Body. It has it as well. Opaque. Okay, so, but if you're using something that's not, one thing you can do is take a black marker and draw a thick line on a paper and then brush a little of your paint. You're not thinned down from a medium or anything, but just straight out of the bottle. And if it covers that black mark, it's opaque. If it doesn't cover that black mark, it's transparent. If it's a little cloudy, iffy, you're looking at semi-transparent. So you can test that. And and see. And not that you can't use transparent colors. If you have a transparent orange that you absolutely love, you can add a little red, a little yellow, or a little white to help make that's opaque. Yellow opaques are kind of hard to find, but you can find them. Just a little bit, trying not to change the color too much to help with that and make it more opaque. So that's an option. But if you are going to use opaque colors, do realize that what's underneath it is going to show through. Did I say opaque? If you're going to use transparent colors or even semi-transparent colors to a certain extent. And I have some semi-transparent that I consider opaque as far as pouring goes. I used some, was it Arteza or Master? I think it was Arteza. And their range of semi-transparent is pretty large. So there's some semi-transparent where I was trying to get a very inky look. And as I was looking at them, some of their transparent colors were able to get that inky look. And some of those transparent colors were too close to an opaque color to do that. So you're going to have a variety in there. The second reason, excuse me, sitting on the floor at 40 isn't as fun as it was in my teenage years. Your paint is too thin. If your paint is super, super thin, it's going to continue to move longer than if it's thicker. If it's thicker, obviously too thick, and you're going to crack and you're not going to get the effects you want. But too thin, and it will just continue to move longer. So you may be done tilting, you put it down, you're like, ooh, that's great. But that thin viscosity is going to allow it to continue to move a little bit. So if you're consistently having an issue or it's changing, try thickening up your paint a little bit. See if that helps. If not, then there may be a different reason that you're having that problem. Number 3, you have too much paint on your canvas. I'm going to use an exaggerated example here, so realize that this is meant to be exaggerated. But let's say you're using 20 ounces of paint on an 8 by 8 inch canvas. Obviously, at some point, even if you tilt and you're done, not all of that paint is going to be able to sit. Just like water has surface tension, paint has surface tension, and if it's super, you have a thicker layer, it will continue to, as it seeks its own level that it's happy with that surface tension, then it will continue to drip off. And as it continues to drip off the sides, obviously it's going to move things, and your paint's going to spread out, and it's going to change, and your cells are going to be lost, and you're going to come back and you're going to say, what happened? But it continued to drip off too much because you had too much paint on the canvas. And of course, the thicker your paint is, again, the more surface tension that's going to have to be able to hold a little bit more paint. When I do ring pours, in particular, I keep my paint thicker. So, and I use more paint when I do ring pours, but it's okay because it's going to be able to hold a thicker layer without continuing to drip off. So, if you go to artresin.com, they have a resin calculator, and you're going to need that times 1.5 to 2. So you're going to want almost double what they're going to recommend, because for them it's just a very thin layer because you're just putting on a clear coat. But if you're pouring, you want those colors to kind of layer so you have those cells. Obviously, if there's no color under anything, you're not going to get to see the color underneath for the cells. So I multiply that times 1.5 or 2, stay in that range, and know that that's going to be a safe amount for my canvas. All right, number 4, probably the most obvious but sometimes overlooked, is that your surface isn't level. This is probably not going to happen without you realizing what's going on. But it could be. I painted the last painting I had, because this is one of the first things I wanted to get down. I had some issues at the very beginning when I first started pouring 4 years ago, and that was the first thing that I was like, I'm going to figure out how to get my paintings to stay the same when they're dry as when they're wet, because that's the whole point. I get them where I want them, and I want them to stay that way. But even I fall for the not level thing once in a while. I was pouring the other day. I could not find my push pins, so I was using upside down cups, and excuse me, I was pouring on puppy pee pads, and when I picked the painting up to tilt, the cup moved, So I moved the cup back and my puppy pee pad kind of bunched. And so that cup was a little higher. When I came back the next day, everything had sort of moved this way. So that's one that I don't think that if you don't know what's going on, it's probably not that. But it, it could be. If you're like, every time it goes a little bit this way, it may be just off level, teeny tiny bit, enough for it to continue to move, but not enough for all of the paint to slide off the canvas. I do believe there's apps for your phone. I think somebody used one. Or you can get some inexpensive tiny ones, at the Dollar Tree. So those are the 4 reasons I have. If you found other reasons that it dries, one more thing, bonus number 5, because this is a really, really, really important one. I almost forgot it because I see this asked over and over and over on why paintings dry darker, and there's 2 reasons for that. Let me take a drink of coffee. I have this really dry throat all of a sudden. I'm not sick. I have allergies. I promise you, I am not sick. You can't catch it over the phone, over the internet anyway. So why am I like reassuring you? If I was sick, it doesn't matter. You can't catch it. But anyway, okay. So there's 2 reasons why your painting is going to dry darker. Number 1, light diffuses the color. It reflects, right? The color we see is light bouncing off of things. When the light bounces off the water molecules in the wet paint, it bounces a lot more. And when it bounces back to us, there's a lot more color we're seeing. Like in a diamond. Shh. My wedding set is in the closet. This is a CZ. But it still has some color. But when light hits a diamond, all those facets make that light bounce around, and that's why we see all the different colors, because that light is bouncing all over the place. Then it bounces back to our eyes, and we see the rainbow of colors. It's similar to that with paint. Instead of the facets like on a diamond, you have all those water molecules that light is bouncing off of. So when the paint dries and there's no longer water molecules, there's nothing for that light to bounce off of. It's hitting the matte surface and bouncing back to our eyes. That's why a glossy finish will sometimes always perk it up a little bit, because there's more for that light to bounce off of, but it's not bouncing around like in wet paint. The other reason is that when we use a medium that's white, it lightens the color a little bit. Even at 50-50, which is what I usually use, it may not look like a totally different color, but it's enough lighter that I can tell it's been lightened, and it's not quite an accurate representation of that paint. So when that white dries and the water molecules evaporate, you've got double that, darkening thing happening. So that's why then there's no way around that. You can make it less of a difference by using higher quality paints that have a higher ratio of pigment to that acrylic binder. So there's more pigment per molecule per water. That makes sense. So like, this is not accurate at all. Don't listen to it as far as the science goes. But let's say basics, their student grade has 1 pigment molecule to 1 water molecule. So that's a lot of water molecules that are drying and leaving a darker pigment. Same color pigment, but darker because there's less water. Then you have Liquitex professional line, and let's say they have 2 pigment molecules to each 1 water molecule. That means there's more of that pigment and less of the water, the light bouncing on water. And then let's say golden acrylics, which are, I think they're more expensive than Liquitex. I could be wrong, but let's just say they have even more. So let's say they have like 3 pigment molecules to 1 water molecule. It's going to dry even closer to that wet look. But regardless what you use, that's just, what happens with acrylic paints. No way around it. So it's going to dry a little bit darker. That's going to be affected on your paint quality, by your paint quality and by the amount of medium that you're using. That's going to add that white and also adds that more water molecules. So more water molecules without pigment molecules. So got some bonus in there. Was that 5? I lost count. I'm not a mathematician. I'm an artist, people. So if you have questions, let me know in the comment section. If you have another reason why you found that your paintings are drying different than they are wet and you found a fix for it, let us all know in the comment section. And maybe I'll do an updated video with everybody else's input, because that would be fun to learn from everybody else, and we'll give shout outs to all the people who gave input. So credit where credit is due. So if you have a reason, let me know. And if you have any other questions, let me know. In the meantime, guys, happy pouring.